You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Delicious. Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another video review from Fanboys Forever. Today it's my pleasure to bring you a review of the brand new McFarlane Gold Label collection, Batman from The Flash. Now, of course, this is the Michael Keaton version of Batman, and it is the reason why you are going to go see the new Flash movie. I certainly know it's the reason I am. So let's talk a little bit about what this figure even is. Of course, there is a standard version of the Keaton Batman that is in the regular line, and you can order that from pretty much anywhere or try to find it out in stores. And I've already reviewed that here on the channel, so if you haven't checked that out yet, you might want to. But this is, of course, just a variant of it, and as McFarlane is wont to do, it is an unmasked Batman. And here we have a likeness to Michael Keaton on the figure. And of course, from the recent trailer that was actually just released today at the time of this recording, we know that indeed Batman does appear like this in the film with an excellent callback lines. You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. But before we actually get into looking at the figure itself, please go ahead and like the video if you can. It really does help the channel out and helps us grow. And of course, subscribe to the channel because we have new videos coming all the time. With that out of the way, let's begin by taking a look at the packaging. First of all, we can see that Batman is just here displayed in the regular window box packaging, which of course is becoming more of a rarity these days, but it does seem like Hasbro crashed and burned with their plasticless packaging, so it does appear that most of their stuff will be going back to this. Of course, aside from the figure itself being displayed, we also have the accessories, and down here the title of the figure. Up here we do have the holofoil kind of gold label thing up there. And on the side, we have this. On the back, here is the UPC barcode, if that helps. Of course, you can go to this QR code and go to DC Infinite. And on the back, we have kind of a more close-up picture of Batman. All right, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get him out of the box. And here he is, fresh out of the box, the Gold Label Keaton Batman from The Flash. This is, of course, a Target exclusive. Right away, you can tell that this is pretty much the same figure as the standard release that we had looked at previously, but there are some interesting changes and certainly quite a bit of debate about this figure and the overall effectiveness of the head sculpt and the value for what you're getting. So let's just go ahead and begin. We'll go ahead and start with what will obviously be the kind of make or break for you in terms of whether or not you're going to pick this guy up, and that's going to be the head sculpt. Of course, I've seen a wide variety of opinions online regarding if this does or does not look like Michael Keaton, and I really do believe that it truly does. I think that this is a plenty good enough likeness, especially for the price point that we're talking about here. I do think it's kind of funny to hear people kind of ramble on about how a $20 figure should be this like photorealistic kind of likeness of an actor, when the truth is that's not only not feasible, that's just ridiculous. It really can't be. I do think, however, that in terms of the pantheon of McFarlane head sculpts, I think this one is a decent representation of Keaton. I can very obviously tell who this is supposed to be. I've heard some really ridiculous comparisons to certain actors. To me, if you had just shown me this and you were like, well, who's this supposed to be? I'd probably say Michael Keaton. So I do think people are being a little overly dramatic. This isn't at all a disaster like the Justice League Ben Affleck head sculpt was for the variation of that figure for that retailer exclusive. If you want to see what a bad actor likeness or a non-likeness looks like, then that's definitely where you need to go. This looks plenty enough like Michael Keaton for me, and I think they did a pretty good job here. Of course, as you can see, he does kind of have that weird thing that McFarlane always does, where it's like, hey, why should we have it look forward when they can look to the side? What's the fun in a figure looking forward? Just make him look right over there, just slightly off center. So your mileage may vary on that one. For me, it's not too big of a deal, but it is kind of funny though that they continue to do this, and I don't really know where the logic is, but you know, it's just something they do. I did end up buying two, and of course I ordered two, and it was for a myriad of reasons. For one thing, for quality control issues, you just never know. And I thought this was interesting. This is the other one that I got. And of course, you know, you're always going to have little production differences here with figures. That's nothing new, and that's nothing, you know, that's revolutionary or anything like that. But I do think it's interesting that they kind of seem to be at different points in production, or there's different things going on, and this is really difficult to, I think, perceive on camera, but I'm going to do my best to point out what I'm talking about. You have this, which has, kind of a little more shading to it, and it's actually a little more glossy. And then over here to the right, you have the other version, which is doesn't have quite as much shading on the face, and it's definitely more matte. I kind of went back and forth about which one was more on the nose. It's funny, this one's eye paint is a little bit better aligned to the Sculpt, but for my money, this one sort of looks a little more like Keaton, even though the eyes aren't quite as well aligned. So it's kind of a funny thing. This might be a little closer to what they intended, yet this one over here is the one that ends up maybe looking a little bit more like him. So I do think that that is an interesting point. I also really do appreciate that they did all of this good shading on the hair. It would have been really easy for them just to have had the hair be white and just called it a day, and it really wouldn't have been film accurate if they had done that, but they easily could have, and I've seen it done before by a lot of different companies. I also like that you have kind of some jowls a little bit here, and some of that sculpting really does come through with the wrinkling in the face, and I think from this angle in particular, of course any likeness is going to be stronger from some angles than others, but I think that this angle is really where it shines in terms of a really good Keaton likeness, and they certainly have those arched eyebrows right. I really do feel like this is more of a win than anything. You can see that the other area where the figure varies quite a bit from the standard edition is this neck piece. Now, it would be a misnomer to just say that this is just an alternate head sculpt, because that's not true at all. This is actually an alternate, like neck piece and head, because the original, he's got the scallops and all of that. And just so you can see, we'll do a comparison, of course, later. But you can see that this one has a completely different neck piece over here. So yeah, that's one of the big differences on this guy. Of course, we do have the soft goods cape because they want him to be able to ride the Batmobile. There is kind of some gappage here between the headpiece and the cape. I think you could probably remove the neck piece with a little bit of heat and probably put the cape in there however you want it to be. I think it does struggle a little with the cape being aligned all the way around, and sometimes the cape is a little further down on this side. Sometimes it's a little further down on this one, so it'll kind of drive you a little crazy if you're not careful. You can, of course, have the option of just putting it back. So if you want to do that, you completely can. I don't think it works maybe quite as well as it does on the standard figure. Of course, they still don't have the film accurate lining on the pectoral plates here, which is something I was curious about, if maybe for the unmasked version somehow they would actually have that in there, but they don't. They're still solid, which is a very minor thing, but it is kind of funny that it didn't make it. Down here we have the ab plating and the all-new monochromatic utility belt. Of course, I wish the belt was yellow myself, but I do understand what they were going for. Down here we have the new designs on the pants, and we have the weird decision, as always, with even the statue to give these highlights to the boots. So we may see the boots really, I don't know, they may be bronzed or dirty or something in the movie, but I think that we'll just have to wait and see. Of course, we've been spending a lot of time really close up on the figure. I think once we get back a little bit, I think that the likeness is even more forgiving, especially, just from a little bit of a distance. I think that that is a really, really good look, and it certainly does look like Keaton to me. I also really like that they've included all the other movie accurate details in the costume, and the cape actually does look pretty decent from the back. So I think overall visually, this figure's a winner, I think, in all the ways that it counts. In terms of articulation, for whatever reason, I was able to get these arms, I feel, to go up a little bit more. It almost feels like the shoulder pads are a little more flexible for this gold label release. So the arms can almost just straight up do the thing, where Keaton has the cape out. So that is interesting. It's almost like the plastic is a little harder or something on the standard release Batman. I think that that looks really good, actually, if you're looking for a good pose for the figure. It is kind of funny that he would just have the cape out. Maybe he just poses in the mirror sometimes, and he's trying to hit those poses just right. Other than that, it's all the same stuff we talked about, how the arms can go all the way around, bicep swivel. You do have a double joint at the elbow. The hands do ratchet up and down at the wrist, and they can rotate all the way around. There is a butterfly joint that goes in and out right there, not so much forward, but plenty back, it feels. At the chest, you can swivel all the way around, and there is an ab crunch, and it is a very good one. As you can see, he can really get the old man back going, and then he can go way back if he needs to. So look at that. Whoa. You can even do some side-to-side kind of swivel. And so you have two different things going on. You have the waist and the upper diaphragm. With the head, there's plenty of motion. You can go way back like this, and you can go way down like this. So I think that's a good look as well. At the legs, you can do the splits if you like to, but be careful because it bends the shorts piece right there. And you can pretty much get 90 degrees, but again, be careful leaving it in that pose because it bends that shorts piece right there. When you bring it down, you have to kind of wait for it to settle. You sort of feel like you can almost get the legs to turn and swivel, but just like the standard release, I kind of struggle to do it. It sort of feels like it wants to, but I can kind of get it to turn in a little. So it certainly doesn't feel like an easy articulation point to get. You can get, however, a really good double joint at the knee. And down here at the boot, you can swivel. You can go up and down on a hinge, and you have plenty of ankle rocker pivot. So if you want to, he can get in those really, really deep poses so that he can, you know, get nuts. And here's a deleted scene from Multiplicity. So he does come with a few accessories. For one, he does come with this card, which I believe might be the exact same one that comes with the statue release. And on the back, you get some info about the story in the movie. Of course, he comes with the DC stand right here, and I really like these little things. I have a million of them at this point, but it's nice that a $20 figure still includes that, especially since it's in that 7-inch scale. He does come with a couple of alternate fist hands. The ones that he currently has on are just kind of grasping hands. And again, the weird decision to put the gadgets in silver. Who knows, we may watch the movie in the Batarang here, and the grappling gun may both be completely silver, but somehow I doubt it, and I think it has more to do with DC Comics policy about realistic looking weapons with their figures, which is awfully strange considering it's a Batarang and a grapnel launcher. So I don't really know what's going on there. Just so that you can kind of see what we're dealing with. Of course, here he is alongside of the standard Batman release, and I think this is a neat comparison. I definitely think, of course, it's more obvious that it's Keaton over here because, you know, reasons. But I do think that this is a neat comparison, and I'm glad to have both of these. Honestly, it's just really a thrill. We now have mass retail versions of Michael Keaton Batman, 7-inch scale. There's masked, there's unmasked, and they're perfectly adequate for what they're trying to accomplish. And I think that's something that we all wished we could say a few years ago, so it's a nice feeling. Here's an incredibly important comparison alongside of Alf here. Of course, we all remember Alf as the main villain of Tim Burton's Batman 3. Of course, I'd be remiss without showing you the Batmobile. This, of course, is kind of what everybody's after right now when it comes to McFarlane. And something I kind of realized that I really didn't show that well in my last Batman review of the standard figure. I honestly didn't think to show him in front of the car itself to show you how that kind of scale looks. And even though the car is a little undersized, I think, compared to a 7-inch scale figure just standing there, I think it does look pretty good, particularly when I adjust it to full length right there. And you can see that it looks pretty decent that way, honestly. And obviously he's going to be able to go in there really well because the standard Batman figure, the only thing that I really had to work with and adjust was the ears on the cowl. With this version, you're not going to have that problem at all. And with the very least amount of effort possible, you can get possibly the most interesting take on a sequel to Herbie Fully Loaded. And if you get that joke, we can be friends. And also if you don't get the joke. And you can see that it goes right over him, so no big deal. If I was Batman, the first thing I would do when I get in this car is take that mask off so I could see what I was doing and turn my head. And with that, that'll pretty well do it for this version of Batman. This gold label release is a lot of fun, and for the budget price that McFarlane offers, really well done 7-inch scaled figures. The great thing is you can afford to splurge and get a couple of variants. I do think that McFarlane's release patterns of releasing these variants do make an argument for more bare bones releases of premium figures that just have variations, so that if people don't really want a certain swap out part or a head, you don't have to buy it. If you look at the other direction, you're looking at figures that are ending up costing $30, $35. because they include like a swappable head and a couple of extra accessories. I mean, it's crazy. I would much rather pay the $40 and get two completely different figures and have that base body twice in case I wanted to, say, customize something or just display both looks simultaneously. So I do think that there's some credence to this kind of model that McFarlane does about having these multiple variants, because I don't know, I feel like I'm getting a better value rather than paying one huge price for a figure that includes multiple accessories, and clearly the business model is working pretty well for Todd. Of course, this figure varies greatly depending on the paint samples that you can find. My personal opinion on it is that it looks plenty like Michael Keaton for me, and I don't know about you, but that's exactly who I see sitting right there in the Batmobile. This is also a really fun figure for anybody who wants to customize and paint the hair brown. You could easily have this be, you know, more of a younger Keaton, but it's kind of funny if you do go back and look at Batman Returns, Bruce is already rocking the gray temples pretty hard. So I always liked that he was showing his age. Even kind of back then, I always prefer kind of that older, more grizzled Batman. And that new trailer is something else. All right, friends, I surely do thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it at all, and subscribe. It really means the world to me. Let me know your opinions on this figure down below, and let me know, was I a little too easy on this thing? Was I too harsh? And I would love to hear your take. We don't always have to agree, you know, but I really do enjoy hearing from you. And as always, God bless you and yours. And I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Delicious. You want to get nuts? Then come on. Let's get nuts.